Okay, so this is the vision of the strategy of the summary by ESW, the full document that we launched on its website soon. Hoping that you can all download and be able to get it. There were some key objectives in this strategic plan. Number one, destroy data connection. Like we said, we always estimate there are about 50,000. Since I started this work 50 years ago, there's always been there about 90,000 street children. You can note, and we also estimate that the number is growing every 5 years. It's doubling every 5 years. So if I started 2010, and there's statistics that were collected, they said there are about 60,000 street children. And the number doubles. If you move from 2015, it should have been around 150,000, right? And if you move from 2020, there will be around 240,000. And if we are 2025, it should have been around 480,000. If the first data that was collected, the presumptions there they are right, that it doubles every 5 years, then in Accra alone, you have about 500,000 connected. Is it evidence? We see them the traffic? We are. So, and if we don't aggressively move this thing, by 2030, we should be having around 1 million children on the streets of Accra. And it will no longer be funny. None of us will ever have the easy if that happens. So, we are using our animation to amplify that data connection is really important, but we all need to go to paper. There are things that others have done or are doing. We can look at the good things and see how we can adapt it to the national frame. Then reducing barriers to essential services. So we have, like I said, SQ is there, but there are barriers. What are the barriers? The teachers, I'm coming to the area. I'm not coming out to you. It's supposed to be free education. Capitation is supposed to support the education. But we know the challenges, the big challenges in capitation have. How much is this per child per year? Can any teacher say one? How much is this per child per year? It's not much. Please say it loud, we want to hear it. It's one city. Please, oh, we are interested. Are you guys interested? Yes. Please, teachers, how much is it per child per year? One city. The capitation grant, public capitation grant. The one the teachers get per student per year, so you can run the administration of the school. One city, 80 pesos. Or how much? Teachers. Who are teachers? Okay. Nobody, when you come, teachers are very, very strict. So nobody will buy it. That is already on their grades plus their grades. So free tuition, the kids have to get exercise without their first. Then there are also issues of safeguarding issues in the schools. That's why 3 years is probably saying safe now. But PSW, all the things we need to work to reduce the virus. Because if a street child has been convinced by me and I'm running to the PTA have contract with that we pay extra prices. But that street child is not going to go there. It will never be there. That's why you're on the street for the person. It doesn't have problems. So that the extra class becomes a barrier for that street child to stay in the classroom. Are we here? So we have to any child, so I'm using any child, we are supposed to register, we are supposed to get a letter. Yes, we are going to go to get letters before that. But what if the data has been knocked down on the street now? We have to go to DSW, we can get a letter, we can get any child before they are taking care of. That child will have been dead. So that is a good system to track and monitor how resources are applied. But it's becoming a barrier, and we need to look at it. So there are different barriers that the strategic plan is saying we need to look at and eliminate. The delivery of ongoing services and fast food permanency. So again, I have mentioned there are very unique initiatives from different NGOs here. And in our breakout sessions, we'll look at all of these unique initiatives, how we can make more initiatives. How many of us know about complementary basic education policy? Yes, a lot of us know. The complementary basic education policy started in organized intervention school and university. It was supported USAID funded it. We don't have to wait for the national grant, spotlight, state forum can help DSW and all of us. So like unique NGOs here that are doing unique things that we can adapt to the national flag, amplify to make sure that we can get it. Then we have the foreign nationality children that are coming in now. Again, there is a project that has been done by NGOs in Ghana, collaboration with other NGOs in the West African region, that have seen a lot of children see reintegration back to where they came from. Then we have coordination and stakeholder collaboration. This is the purpose, because everybody, in this way, what I want to say is that there is no competition. If you have a resource, like self-using 15 years anniversary, promote the implementation of the strategy that we were a part of, right? That has been adopted now. Any resource that you have, we need to be able to coordinate, work together in partnership so that we can address the problem head on. Then build child-sensitive communities. What does that mean? If a child is supposed to go to school from staying at Jamestown, is supposed to go to school at Adaraka, have we made considered transport arrangements? Have we considered all the things they go through in terms of photography, so right in the face of kids on the street? You can just go there, internet cafes have these things that are not legally sensitive. We have not built our communities. We don't have playgrounds. We don't have public areas where people can go. Our only children's park is not as functional as it should be. But every good communities that are sensitive about children, they are deliberate about how they construct the DSW or social welfare that are working with the various local ones, community parks, community teams. And we have got a lot of us that have traveled. A lot of us that have traveled. We see community sensitive, child-sensitive communities, sensitization, then we have evaluation and resource utilization. So the goal, establish reliable nationwide data, so each of the objectives have specifics of activities and actions that need to take. So I think this may take a lot longer, but I'm going to have the presenter go slide by slide very quickly. We will share this as PDF with you. We have all of you on contact, so we will just blast it to all of you. Corporate will blast it to all of you. So you are your own coming. So next slide. So I have spoken to these items already. So this is the action step that is taken now that we are going to do. So when it comes to this as well, yes, we have a policy goal. I have spoken to this already. Coordination stakeholder collaboration. This I have spoken to already as well. And so already 2013, there were things that must have been done. So headcount, and as I stand here, I know that has not been done. So we are running late. I also know that there was supposed to expand outreach programs and establish transitional centers. I am not aware of this also being taken here. I was privileged to be in a meeting with the ministry. The director indicated that they want to have a meeting with all of us and see how we can take chances. So just so you know, the implementation of this, to be fair, has not commenced. We are running the timeline are over. So what will we serve to? We are making a committee push hard in this issue of stream connectivity was addressed early on. So that to become an example in the West African region, and we are able to come and learn how this was done. So I am just stating on behalf of the management and the board that we want to collaborate across sectors to ensure that every child is supported and empowered. The partnership, please engage with us, collaborate. We want to pool their resources. DSW is already doing, the new director is doing us a lot of work in the comments and collaborating. His presence here is a testament to this. So we are also improving out ready to work with the media as well as our here. So thank you very much, and let's get to work and see which ideas we can contribute in our breakout sessions. But before that, we have the qualitative research that has been done by the group called Rest. I'm on their advisory board, and they are all the way in the UK, and they are joining us virtually to present. They have followed Ghanaian children of street connectivity for over 10 years, and they have developed documents on their resilience and the things they have done. So they have a produce to present online. Thank you very much. And on that note, I'll hand over to the
It looks like the next 15 days is going to be something good, right? And that is why we are so much confused about making sure we partner, we contribute, and do everything we can to help set the role of helping children, helping street children across Ghana and beyond. So as Mr. Paulson said, the Executive Director has mentioned, the next phase we're going to have a presentation. To do the presentation is one man called James speaking from Uganda. So please, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to be talking about market success. So please, let's watch the screen and then I believe we'll then see. James, you can take over from now. Right, James, you ready?
Yeah, we can see your screen. This side.
Is he speaking?
Yeah, he's speaking.
He's speaking. You can hear him.
Yeah, James. Yeah, I can hear you. We're just trying to figure the sound out. Just a second.
Whilst we wait for the setup, can we turn to our neighbor and say we are in this together? Yes, everyone is involved. We are in this together. Okay, so for the children. Okay. So, hello. All right, James. Yeah, we're ready.
Yeah, is he speaking? Is it also
Someone please. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Yes, please let me know when you are ready.
James, we are ready for you. You can proceed.
James, you can proceed.
Yes, you can proceed. Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, those who are online. My name is Senator James Thomas. I'm a research associate for the REST project based at Makerere University from the Department of Social Work and Social Administration. I want to take the pleasure to thank the organizers for this symposium. It is really nice, and I'll be sharing some of the research findings from a qualitative secondary data analysis that has been conducted. And I'm presenting this on behalf of the team members, the REST team, and I'll be using the concept of REST throughout this presentation, which means responsibilities for the resilience embedded in street temporalities, mapping street resiliences through analysis of secondary data. So I'm making this presentation on behalf of the team members led by Professor Rodin Van Lack from from the University of Dundee and Jenin. Then we have Dr. Badu Kenya from Makere University. We also have Professor Linda Collin and Gama from the University of Pretoria, as well as Mr. James Kulu Lamagulana from the University of Cape Town. So this is an international research team involving different academicians from the different parts of the world to undertake this research. So I'm going to talk about Growing Up on Streets project that was conducted from 2013 up to 2016. Then I'll link this to the REST project, that is Responsibilities for Resilience Across Time. And then I'll look at the aims of the REST project. Then I'll talk about the systemic resilience framework and the 4 things which we've identified or been able to identify so far. In terms of the Growing Up on Streets project, this was is a project that was conducted in 3 African cities. That is Accra in Ghana, where we're based right now. Then there was also Bukavu, Republic of Congo, as well as Harare in Zimbabwe. So the project was an innovative participatory research about the lives of street children and youth as they grow up on streets. And it aimed at building an extensive and authoritative evidence base to inform and influence street child policy and practice. So it was a collaboration between the University of Dundee, Street Investment Consortium for Street Children, and local partners in different parts of the participating countries. Specifically in Ghana, we had a Street Girls Aid, then we had Street Empowerment Trust from Zimbabwe, then Padel from the Republic of Congo. So this street, they talked to about 200 street children and youth were in the core group between 14 to 20 years. But the narratives captured, because each research that is picked out had a network of about 10 peers who they used to interact with, so they captured their narratives. And this spanned over 500 street children and youth across that time. So out of the Growing Up on the Street, quite a number of products were developed, and these were very useful in terms of influencing or informing policy and innovations aimed at improving the well-being and livelihoods of street children and youth. So we had several briefing papers. You can see a list such as one on shelter and young people in the streets, as well as other briefing papers. Then also there was a training pack that was developed, as you can see it, that was used by the different street children and youth, and this was adopted by the Consortium for Street Children. Then besides that, the courts network were involved in developing the EU authoritative guidance in 2017 on the rights of children in street situations. So the project that is going up on streets was very instrumental and fundamental in informing the EU authoritative guidance in 2017. So from this project, then led to the REST project, which aims at basically mapping out the resilience of street children. Put simply, resilience is the ability of an individual to adapt to the adverse situations. So street children, in most cases, they have so many challenges they to overcome these challenges or to persevere irrespective of those challenges. So this project specifically, we looked at the data. So we looked at about 2,478 ethnographic reports from these street children to map out the risks that they face on the streets, but also to identify some of the resources. So in total, as you can see, this was our coding framework in line with these risks in relation to built environmental risks, institutional risks, among others. And then in terms of the resources that street children use to overcome the challenges, we have built environment resources, formal social resources, informal social resources, institutional resources, among others, as you can see on the list. And I'm going to be discussing this in detail. What are the things of the tourist project? This project I'm talking about, that is that comes from the Growing Up on Streets project. So the first things that are exploring the lived resiliences of street youth growing up in diverse African settings. I've already talked about Accra, that's Ghana, Bukavu in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as Harare in Zimbabwe. So we are able to record data and reanalyze the data from growing up on the streets. And as a result, we were able to come up with about 50 main codes and 49 resource codes, which inform the core things that I'm going to discuss for this particular presentation. Then we have an international advisory panel that advises on findings and recommendations. So this international advisory panel has academicians, researchers, non-government organizations, policymakers, government representatives. So they meet on a regular basis to discuss what is emerging from the research findings of the tourist project and advise on how best to package this information to develop these messages that are going to inform or influence policy change for the lives of street children across Africa, but also at a global level. Then also exploring with stakeholders how the analyzed evidence-based can support young street people to inform policy and practice across diverse African and global contexts. Then also, as I already mentioned, that identifying specific policy and practice responsibilities for stakeholders, which is aligned with the UN Rights of Children in Street Situations, the General Comment number 21, as you can see. So, resilience, the ability to positively navigate and adapt to adversity. Street children face a number of challenges. So traditionally, we tend to resilience emphasizes personal resources, where we only look at individual resources, the street child in Accra, looking at her or his resources at a personal level. That is what the traditional focus is on. However, when you use the more systemic lens, it goes beyond individual resources or individual risks to also include other layers such as the social, the institutional, as well as the environmental factors, because all these have an important role they play influencing, enabling the street children to adapt to the challenging situations on the streets. The most systemic resilience framework, as you can see, I've already noted that individual factors, this would include things like biological factors, having good health for the street child. Maybe that can enable them to be able to work if you have good health. Because if you are ill, that means you cannot be in position to work as research indicated. But here we are looking at beyond the individual resources, social. What are we looking about? We are talking about trusted adults, enabling their street families, because we are living on the streets. These children interact with other different individuals, including peers who play an instrumental role in terms of informing what they do or addressing or navigating challenges. Then institutional, we are talking about street work services, markets, clinics, among others. Most oftentimes when these children are sick, for instance, they reach out to these different NGOs that provide services, but the quality of services provided to these street children affects how they respond to the challenges. Find that these street children don't want, even when they are free, some of these street children don't want to come and take up those services because of the quality, the way they are treated at those facilities, meaning the services are not youth friendly. So these are some of the things that need to be addressed so that street children are able to respond and navigate positively to the challenges they face. Then we have environmental factors, things like adequate shelter, safe places. We talk about these street children. They are children, they have the right to play, but are there educational facilities where they can exercise their right to play? Are there spaces where they can move freely as they work? So these are some of the things which the multi-stream resilience framework lens looks at, so that we are able to enable street children and youth to be able to navigate the challenges they face. These are some of the examples These are voices of street children from different parts of Africa where this study was conducted. You can see at individual level, as I already noted here, from Harare in Zimbabwe. A youth or a child here says that I'm persevering. When things are difficult, that is when we persevere. So that is being resilient, the self-belief. Then at the social level, we talk about the peers, the networks they have on those street families. So Estelle, this is a research assistant from Bukavu. She noted that Yema is teaching Portia how to ride a motorbike. Portia will be happy if she rides from the place of independence until police station riding her soul. So below you can see a photo of our place independence. So these three children, these are girls, but they feel happy when they learn how to ride bikes. So it is something that she's learning from a peer. Otherwise, it is a service that can be paid for if you need to learn how to ride, for instance, a motorcycle. If you want to learn how to ride a motorcycle, you have to pay for it to be educated on about it. Then we have institutional resources that I've already talked about, two factors. Here, the street child in our prayer conference was asked what an NGO, if they are to come to support the hustlers, how would that program look like? And this was her response. I will ask them to establish a place similar to Street Girls Aid that will take care of the boys. They will be trained in auto mechanics and driving. So you can see that she's also talking about how there is already an established center for girls that is trying to skill them. But then for boys, they are left out. So we need to have gender-specific interventions provided by these NGOs to both genders, males and females, so that they are empowered. Otherwise, it's not good to only empower one gender. We're talking about street children and youth. So both girls and boys have to be empowered. Then environmental, this is an example. This is from Harare. The youngsters bathing and swimming in the Obis River only. They got their winter sport. So this is actually a dangerous river in Zimbabwe. It has very dirty water. That means they are exposed to disease. But also these people, young children, they come and cases where some of them drowned. So it is very safe for them, but a resource to them. So how do we make these resources accommodated to street children in a more safe way? So from the research that we conducted, we are able to identify 4 major themes for the REST project. One is about basic needs, food, shelter, and wash. Then 2 is about violence risks, 3 is about livelihoods, and 4 is about health. And when we talk about the basic needs, food, shelter, and wash, what do we mean? So here we are able to identify several risks related to food, access to food, related to access to shelter, related to access to wash facilities. However, we are also able to map out the different resources that these street children and youth use to navigate the problems they face in relation to food, access to shelter, access to wash facilities, at the different levels. Remember the systemic resilience framework, as I've already noted, it goes beyond individual factors to incorporate the social, institutional, as well as environmental. So the resources looked at it at individual, where we have physiological and psychological, material, then temporal. At relational, we looked at informal and formal social resources. Institutional, here we are looking at rules and policies as well as the services being provided. And the environment, we looked at the built and the natural environment. Just to give you an example of food. Most of the times, these street children lack access to food, adequate food. So some of them will eat, say, 1 meal a day, they will skip some meals. Then they also have access to dirty drinking water, because they will drink water from these water bodies like rivers, and these are places where they will shower, where they use as toilets, so they are at risk. But also at night, they were really very, very much affected. So dirty water, when it it comes to the work they do, such as transactional sex, they needed this to be able to. This is now the resource. These are some of now the resources running now the risks. So resources for instance, let me give an example of relation where we have info and common. For instance, in common, we have peer support. So these peers will reach out to one another. If someone has got money, they would offer a hand to another. If they prepare food, they would share. For instance, boys in Bukavu, they will meet every evening at night and all resources. They contribute in some small money and then they buy food. They prepare their food and eat. In terms of institutional resources that we were able to identify, they talked about things like conferences that are organized between, for instance, in Bukavu, where we had the security officers for the market president organizing meetings with street children to discuss their challenges, the challenges they face. Because if they stop them to access the market, it limits their access to food. Then we had NGOs as well as churches that provided a lot of support, in-kind support to these street children. Built environment, here we're talking about blue spaces, like rivers, they open, and lakes, they open water. Somebody would cut out fishing from these rivers to access food. Then green environment where they would, like fields, where they had space where they would prepare their own meals. They would sleep in some of these green spaces. In Bukavu, there was a space called Shamba la Mawazo. It's a Swahili statement which means literally translated in English, field of thoughts. So these street children will always go to that field. And why they call it field of thoughts is because whenever they were there, that is where ideas will come into their mind. Okay, we need to make plans on how to go and steal at night. That is where they will come up with different ideas. How do we access food? How do we move up of this challenge? So that's why it was called field of thoughts. So those are so many other examples of environmental resources. Now, so we have a briefing paper that will identify risks around each theme under the first theme. Then two, that is the violence risks. Here I'll start with the quote. A step from Bukavu says, it is risky because you can be walking at night, come across people who can beat you. If he beats you at a wrong place, you can suffer internal bleeding. So it came out that these street children and youth were victims of abuse from the perpetrators, including peers, that is the friends, usually the older street children, but also the public, like private security guards, the vigilant groups of volunteers in markets that can pick up these street children. Then we had state agents, actually police, security forces, the army, council workers. These really abuse the rights of street children by beating them up, by flogging them, by imprisoning them for longer hours, subjecting them to harsh treatment, and this really affected their livelihoods. However, despite this, there are some resources, again, at individual level, at social level, at within the environment that hope to respond to some of the challenges or risks they face. Such as age was at individual level. We have things like age, physical strength, maturity, pregnancy. Using an example of pregnancy, like in Bukavu. For girls, before they got pregnant, they were always subjected to abuse by fellow peers, especially boys, like gang rape or group rape. But after they got pregnant, boys would kind of respect them. So in that sense, that was some kind of a resource to them for protection. Then at institutional level, we are talking about things like where the police at times would come and arrest the challenges they face. I remember in one of the cities where this special research assistant was going to be beaten by the public through justice. But one of the peers went to police and requested for support, and they were able to come in and take her away, and she was able to restrict from the public and beating from the public. So we have quite a number of recommendations that will come in the policy brief. Just reading one of them, it's about, we are talking about providing a combination of resources to support street children on the streets, providing alternatives to risky activities. For instance, girls, most of them talk about engaging in sexual activities that expose them to risks of violence. Can we have alternative work? For instance, things like vocational skills that enable them to do something and earn money as opposed to sexual activities where they are exposed to violence. Can we have safe spaces where these children can walk or work from during the day or even at night at times? And what is a safe space? We are not talking about walls, obvious things, but here we are talking about more of acceptance, supportive networks. And this is very, very important for them to thrive on the street, as opposed to beating them. The police officers, as opposed to beating them, can you work with them, accommodate them, accept them in that community, and teach them on how to do better jobs, for instance? Then we had another thing on livelihoods. So you can see livelihoods here, basically we're talking about work or activities. It could involve atypical or typical informal work that children and youth engaged in to earn income or in exchange for food, shelter, among others. So this is a photo of one of the girls who is painting hair to earn some money. This is a quote from Accra. They're saying that Nahum now does buy and sell business. Kwema still does his business, same as Samo. They have started saving and they have sent me to the place where they save their monies. Most of the girls in my network are also trying their best to work. Mia, for instance, she braids hair. She's the one who has been feeding the boyfriend now. I have met some of the street girls who are also trying their best to work. A person like Darcy sells for me knows. So you can see, for instance, here in Africa, so many young girls as well as boys, they are involved in different typical activities that are aimed at generating money. So the question is, can we create a more conducive environment? Can we have them skilled to ensure that they are able to work and earn money as opposed to engage in activities that are antisocial, such as stealing? Because if they have money, then that means, or if they have access to food after work, that means it will limit their chances of engaging into activities such as stealing. Then the last thing is about health. These are boys. This was a photo taken by the Professor Len Van Black in Harare, Zimbabwe, where these young children are trying to, they pull resources, so they are trying to prepare food and have a meal. But you can see it is a group of boys, the meal is not adequate. So they have a lot of challenges in terms of access to food, but also some boys were poisoned in some cities. That is why they even opt to prepare their own food. Because when they go to buy food in some of the markets, these ladies poison them because they want them dead, not to steal them. So it is a very challenge for them. But also they have access to poor or dirty water, they have access to wash facilities as already noted. So this exposes them to ill health. Then things like sleeping outside the shelter, they sleep outside, it's very cold, especially during the rainy seasons. It exposes them to diseases such as cold, flu, cough, among others. However, that's it. There are also some resources that are in line with this particular theme of health, where we are talking about at institutional level. Let me use an example of institutional level. They talked about one of the cities, that is Bukavu, where these girls and boys, they have access to some of the services, family services, like use of access to condoms, but they don't use them. But also they have access to, in case somebody gets pregnant, they can go to one of the health facilities and they receive treatment, but they don't want to go there. There are reasons as to why they don't want to go there. One of them was that when they go there, they normally kind of discriminate them, use derogatory language while addressing them, and that environment makes them fear to go back. So how about creating a warm environment where these street children can come in case they feel sick? They are able to access services. Can we work with the peer networks? Because it so turns out that they trust their peers a lot, these street children. So when somebody falls sick, they always ask their peer, what can I do? I have this particular problem. How can I go about it? And in most cases, they provide or recommend herbal medicine, which has no prescription. So how do we work with these peers to support these street children to access health services? This is just an example of a quote from Harare, that is in Zimbabwe. Mbale, market area is messy. If it rains, there will be a lot of mud and dirty water. One will be working through that to get money for food. Only the food causes a running stomach. If you buy the stale food, you will get stomach aches and running stomachs. Right now, others are ill and losing weight from the running stomachs and the flu. This is from Zimbabwe. And other things, they engage in substance abuse, which affects their health. Although it's kind of coping mechanism, but it affects their health in the end. So, based on those four things, we have policy dialogues that are going to happen in the different African cities. This will be the research teams and the local partners in the respective countries. We will host policy engagement workshops. One will be in Ghana, and another one will be in Uganda. We have one in South Africa and Zimbabwe, and particularly for Ghana. We shall have the event that will be on Monday, 8 September from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hope to see you there, and we shall be sharing detailed information in line with these four things. What needs to be done, what are some of the recommendations we come up with, and what is the conclusion, how we best work with these street children and youth to ensure that their livelihoods are improved, their well-being is improved, using a systemic resilience framework. Remember this goes beyond individual factors to incorporate the social factors, including peers, including their street families, as well as institutional factors such as the non-government organizations that provide services to the street children, but also environmental factors when we're talking about the built environment, but also the natural environment, things like the blue space as well as the green space. How do we make all this accommodative for street children? So this event will be in Ghana, so we see you there. And we shall be identifying the strategic priorities for national and local advocacy, then also to understand obligations in international and the regional law, and how the findings from the research can contribute to policy and practice. Some images of the presentation is you can have access to the story maps from the different cities using these links in the presentation to learn more about the lives of these street children based on the growing up on the streets research. Otherwise, thank you very much. In case of anything, those are the contacts you can reach out.